This is the Big 8 Gridiron Report. And now your hosts, Drew Goodman and Dave Logan.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Big 8 Gridiron Report. I'm Drew Goodman.
And I'm Dave Logan. What a great week this past week for the Big 8 Conference, as they had 6 teams that won, only one team that lost. Oklahoma State did not play. If you had a chance to take a look at the UPI poll, the Big 8 Conference has to be pleased as 3 teams in the country's top 10.
Yeah, not a good week to be a favorite, however. Nebraska, 51.5-point favorite against Oregon State, was down 7-3 at intermission. They, of course, won, didn't cover. Oklahoma, a 42-point favorite against Kansas. They win by 2 touchdowns in a game much closer than that. And Missouri, a decided underdog against Arizona State, and they pulled a big upset.
No question about it. Let's take a look at the Big 8 Conference standing as they currently exist. You see Oklahoma and Nebraska both with 4 victories apiece. Kansas State now 3-1, a great start for the Wildcats. And Colorado, after a slow start, they are now 3-1-1.
Iowa State back in the win column. They're 2 up and 2 down. Oklahoma State, as Dave mentioned, idle, 2-2. Missouri at 2-2, and Kansas, a much improved team, yet only 1 victory so far.
Well, maybe. Welcome back to the Big 8 Gridiron Report along with Drew Goodman. I'm Dave Logan. Trivia question number 4, and this one could surprise you a bit too. How many K-State players have ever played in a Super Bowl? And I'll give you this, it's more than you might expect.
No shot. You know when you don't have a shot at something? No shot.
Oh, you should get a couple of these
Right
guys.
now I have no shot. Grogan. I know Steve Grogan. He played in the Super Bowl with New England. That's
yes.
one. That's not a...
How about a pretty good running back?
I do know this one because I saw this the other day. Larry Brown played. I didn't realize he went to K-State, the former great Redskin running back.
Very good player.
The other two, Dave?
Damian Johnson. Damian Johnson of the New York Giants.
I should know that.
Played in the Super Bowl. And also Len Larson, who was an offensive lineman for the Colts when Baltimore played the Dallas Cowboys.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so you learn a few things in the show.
I did learn a couple of things. Kansas State wasn't concerned with Super Bowls and who had played in Super Bowls in the past. They were concerned with the New Mexico Lobos this past week and an excellent passing attack led by Jeremy Leach of the Lobos. And they were still trying to get over that tough fourth-quarter loss to Northern Illinois. So let's return to Manhattan, Kansas, and see how they fared against New Mexico Saturday afternoon.
In Manhattan, Kansas, the New Mexico Lobos came in to face the upstart Wildcats of Kansas State, who are off to their best start in 10 years. From the 5-yard line, the Cats started a drive that is foreign to fans in Manhattan. Senior Pat Jackson got them out of trouble on the first play as he took it around the left side and picked up 33 yards to the 38-yard line. Then on 3rd and 16 from the 45, Carl Straw went airborne to Michael Smith for 45 yards on the touchdown.
Back to throw, sets up in the pocket, pumps. Now launching long for Mike Smith. He makes the catch, touchdown! What a catch by Smith!
The Wildcat defense got into the act on New Mexico's next drive. Jeremy Leach had a tough day finding his own receivers, but he had no trouble finding the K-State defensive backs. C.J. Masters came up with the interception and returned it to the Lobo 12-yard line, and the Wildcats were back in business. But the Lobo defense did their job, stopping the Wildcats in their tracks, and K-State had to settle for the field goal, but they owned a 10-0 lead in the first quarter.
Second 21 out of the shotgun. Wanting to throw his Leach. Plenty of time across the middle. He's got Mike Henderson at the 15 to the 10. Henderson is into the end zone. Touchdown, New Mexico.
Kansas State then went on a 21-point tear in the second quarter.
Back to throw Leach. Short pass. Tipped. Intercepted. Intercepted by Jamie Mendez. He's in the open field. He could go all the way. 30-yard line. 20, 10, 5. Touchdown. Big play. A big play for Kansas State. Credited with about a 75-yard touchdown.
Jamie Mendez, the redshirt freshman cornerback, with the help of Elijah Alexander's tip at the line of scrimmage, came up with the interception, the 3rd thrown by Leach of the afternoon. And the redshirt freshman from Youngstown, Ohio, raced 72 yards for the touchdown. And Kansas State looked like a finely tuned machine as they took a commanding 19-6 lead. Backup quarterback Paul Watson replaced Straw, and the Kansas State offense didn't skip a beat.
Long count by Watson. Deep drop by Paul Watson, firing downfield for Mike Smith. He's got him at the 25, down to the 20, 15, taking a guy with him inside the 5. He's down to the 3-yard line.
On his first pass of the afternoon, Watson hooked up with Michael Smith, who caught 7 balls for 179 yards on the day. 54 of those yards here as the Wildcats were in familiar territory on this day with a 1st and goal at the 2.
Watson will keep after faking a handoff. Second effort, touchdown, Paul Watson.
From there, Watson called his own number on the keeper, scoring from 2 yards out. And K-State was on their way to a 3-1 start for the first time since 1982. Wins have been rare for Kansas State, so when one is in the air, they take full advantage. On the Lobo 40-yard line, Watson again used his feet.
Angles to the 40, cuts back to the 35, Watson to the 30, 25, 20, Watson 15, 10, 5, touchdown!
And this time the junior broke free for 40 yards in the touchdown, giving the Wildcats a 31-6 advantage. But the scoring wasn't quite through in Manhattan. Adding insult to injury, Kid Rawlings put the icing on the cake with a 10-yard touchdown run. And the Wildcats build ahead of steam going into Big 8 play with a 38-6 whitewashing of New Mexico.
Well, the best way to stop a good passing offense, Dave, obviously, is with a good pass rush, and the Wildcats certainly got that on Saturday. Coach Bill Snyder, after the ballgame, said, "We have turned a corner." There are a lot more corners to go in this maze, but they made strides this season.
They really did, and I know Bill Snyder's got to be pleased with the way his club has played. They've averaged 38 points a game. I think in the first 4 games, no Kansas State team has ever scored more points. They throw the ball, which I like. They've got good receivers, and I think before the season is done, you'll see Kansas State throw a few scares into a lot of people.
Yeah, I think you might be right. They're off to a good start, 3-1 as Big 8 conference play gets ready to go. When we come back, some guys get their bells rung. You know what we're talking about.
Putting it nicely.
That's putting it nicely. Welcome back. Drew Goodman along with Dave Logan on the Big 8 Gridiron Report as we are getting set for conference play. Actually, Kansas and Oklahoma have already begun conference play. And in this segment, we will have our hits of the week and our plays of the week. We got players of the week, too, don't we?
We've got everything. This is the good segment where you can see some of these guys that really we have picked during the course of the week for the hits of the week. But first, the players of the week.
And we'll begin with a defensive player. The defensive player of the week in the Big 8 this week is Kansas State sophomore Brooks Barta. Barta had 8 tackles, including 5 unassisted, as the Wildcats defeated New Mexico 38-6 on Saturday in Manhattan. And in addition to those 8 tackles, or included in those 8 tackles, were 4 sacks for minus 47 yards. And he also caused a fumble, recovered a fumble, and the sophomore was all over the place. And if you remember back to last year, Brooks Barta was the defensive newcomer of the year in the Big 8, and this week he is the defensive player of the week. Brooks Barta from Kansas State.
And the Big 8 Conference Offensive Player of the Week is Missouri quarterback Kent Kiefer. He completed 20 of 33 passes Saturday for 279 yards and a couple of touchdowns as the Tigers beat number 21 Arizona State 30-9 in Columbia. Kiefer was on target often and early as he completed 15 of 19 passes in the first half for 224 yards as Mizzou built a 23-6 lead at intermission. He now has 3,375 career passing yards. That's just 38 yards short of third place on the all-time Tiger passing list. The offensive player of the week this week in the Big 8 Conference is Missouri quarterback Kent Kiefer.
If you recall, last week we didn't give out a hit of the week.
No, we didn't.
Nobody deserved it. And if nobody deserves it, Dave, we're not just going to arbitrarily pick the second best hit.
Well, these have
of the
got to be big hits. I mean, you get on this show, you have to have some knockdown dragouts, and we've got more than one this week.
Decleaters. They got to be decleaters.
Yeah, the helmet comes off, the head hopefully stays in.
As Dave mentioned, we have 2 this week. Let's go to Owen Field in Norman, Oklahoma. We'll return there Saturday afternoon. Terry Ray, number 19 from OU, really lays the leather on George White in the backfield. I mean, he hits him so hard. Look what falls out. One of his earpieces, not his earpiece, but one of his ear pads falls out. And It was a big hit, a monster hit. So the hit of the week, #1, goes to Terry Ray from Oklahoma. Nice shot, Terry.
And not to be outdone, we have hit #2 of the week. As Drew said, we've got another one, and this is a dandy. Saturday in Boulder, Colorado against Washington. Take a look. Deep in Colorado territory, Washington quarterback Brunell tosses a pass to Bailey. He catches it, but look what happens. What a hit from Tim James that should have knocked the ball loose. It didn't, but that was a dandy, unless you were Bailey. The second hit of the week goes to Tim James from the University of Colorado.
You know, I like to call those hits of the week kisses. They blew each other kisses.
How many times have you taken one of those? You wouldn't call it a kiss if you were the one getting kissed.
Answer the phone, the bell's ringing. Let's go to our plays of the week, and this week we also have 2 of those because there were some outstanding ones with which to choose from. So let's go back to a flea flicker play, the old flea flicker in Missouri, taking on Arizona State, trying to blow it wide open, and that's exactly what happened when Kent Kiefer got the football back and goes long to Damon Mays. Pretty good coverage downfield. Mays somehow comes up with the football, a touchdown, and Missouri goes on to the 30-9 victory over the 21st ranked Arizona State Sun Devils. Big play.
And yes, indeedy, we have play of the week #2. Not to be outdone, you take a look at it. It was in the Kansas State game. There were 3 interceptions at the KSU-New Mexico game, but this one to Jamie Mendez was a thriller. The ball was tipped at the line of scrimmage, and the redshirt freshman, Jamie Mendez, goes 72 yards for a touchdown. Again, the second play of the week goes to Kansas State's Jamie Mendez. Boy, some good-looking plays. Some offensive plays, some guys bowling the other guy. I mean, some guys, contact football.
Some big-time contact football.
Wide receivers hang on to the football, but I tell you, when you take a lick like that, it's okay to let it go down there.
DB's dream things like Tim James saw and Terry Ray saw on Saturday. Those were big-time shots.
Indeed they were. We'll come back, and after this message, we'll have our prediction segment. Drew's going to pick some winners, and I'm going to hopefully pick some winners, and we'll show you what we do when we return on the Big A Gridiron Report.
Don't count on it.
Back to the Big A Gridiron Report. As you saw, and I'm going to try not to gloat about this because last year he beat me decisively, but at least for the time being, I have a lead. You
have a considerable lead as we move into Big 8 conference play. What do you have, 5 games?
I have a 5-game lead.
16-4 and 11-9. One town I should stay out of, 2 towns I should stay out of, Vegas and Atlantic City. That's safe to say?
That is safe to say, if you'd like to keep it of your hard-earned money. We'll start this week, and we only have 4 games. As Drew said, the conference schedule starts. Kansas at Iowa State. I think this could be a pretty good football game.
I think this will be a very good football game. Iowa State is at home in Ames, and for that reason, they'll still go without Chris Peterson from what we know right now. Blaze Bryant is back and getting closer to 100%. I'm going to go with Iowa State. I think Jim Walton's going to rattle a few cages this week. He wasn't happy, as we talked about, with their win over Western Michigan, at least how they played. It's going to be tough for Kansas to go in there and get a victory.
Who are you picking?
I'm just rambling.
I understand. Did I cover both teams? But are you going to pick
Iowa State?
Ditto. I'll make this short. I like the Cyclones at home. Nebraska travels to Manhattan, Kansas to face the 3-1 Wildcats. I'll take Nebraska. I'll go ahead and go out and win.
Kansas State is much improved. They've had a nice go of it in their non-conference schedule. They don't have the horses yet to beat Nebraska, and you better believe Tom Osborne will also have his troops ready after what happened against Oregon State, down 7-3. I still can't. Can you imagine sitting in a press box around the country? Oh, Nebraska down 7-3 at halftime to Oregon State.
I was sitting in a hotel room in Buffalo and thought it was some sort of misprint on the TV.
You thought Greg Pruitt got in your TV again and did one of those things to your old teammate.
Third game, Oklahoma travels to Stillwater, Oklahoma to play the Cowboys from Oklahoma State.
Oh, 2 bitter rivals, but OU has too much talent this year.
I think they do too. Oklahoma to win, although that's been a pretty good rivalry, I should say, over the past few years. Oklahoma State's had their fair share of good games. They haven't won many games, but they've played the Sooners tough.
They also have 2 weeks to prepare. They were idle this past week.
That's exactly right. And finally, Colorado at Missouri. What do you think?
Colorado will win that football game. Missouri obviously had a nice upset this past week, but I think Colorado will defeat Missouri in Columbia in a game that'll probably be better than most people think.
I think so, too. Missouri coming off that big victory. Colorado, of course, a big victory in their own right, and I like the Buffaloes, although I think that could be a fairly competitive game.
I agree with you. Unfortunately, I can't pick up any ground, David, because you followed my lead.
And I'll do that from here on out.
I figured.
That's going to do it. Thanks for being with us. For Drew Goodman, I'm Dave Logan. We'll see you next week on the Big 8 Gridiron Report.